Hi there. Welcome back to our employee engagement series presented by RPI Consultants. We have a special guest today. So before we go into intros, just a reminder, I'm Melissa Olson, Director of HCM Solutions and Infor Solutions at RPI. Matt?
I'm Matthew Slazak, Principal HCM Consultant here at RPI.
And special guest, Marcus.
Hello, everyone. I'm Marcus Mossberger, and I am a strategist at Infor.
Thank you for joining us today, Marcus. We're really excited to kind of talk about these things with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So again, this is part 3 of a 3-part series. We might add another part in here. Matt and I just can't stop thinking about ideas. But if you haven't seen the first 2, we'll reference a few things from there. So go and find them on RPI's page and watch them all. So we kind of wanted to get started. We talked about some processes, Infor supporting some of this employee engagement trends that we're seeing. So we kind of wanted to kind of wrap it up today and talk about, what are the effects of unengaged employees? What is it that is coming out in the next, few years that will be impacting your workforce? And, what can you do about it today, even if you aren't in HR or even if you don't have a budget to get software or push initiatives through? So that's on the agenda. So let's go ahead and get started. Marcus, we were kind of talking before about some of the trends that you've been seeing. One of the interesting things, we hear about AI every day. I just want to start with that one. So what are you seeing and what are you hearing about how it's going to be impacting employees, systems, the way we do work?
Yeah, I mean, in the context of engagement, right, I think generative AI, it seems to be the hottest topic out there, right? Everywhere I go, everybody's talking about it. Every event that we attend, it is the main topic. And I think it has incredible potential to dramatically change our lives at work. So if you think about one of the things that's probably impacting employee engagement, I would call it burnout in healthcare, industries. It's the administrative burden frequently that accompanies managerial and supervisory roles, but it's just doing a bunch of stuff that we don't really want to do at the end of the day. And that's where I think generative AI in particular has incredible potential to do so. So I don't know if you all have used like ChatGPT or anything like that yet.
I mean,
right.
I have not.
Everything on you haven't. No. Everything on the personal side of trying to figure something out, and then also to kind of give me more words instead of using a thesaurus, like the synonyms. When I put a presentation together and just can't quite articulate it, I'll go in there and put an idea, ask it. It's all about the question you write, right? You have to be very prescriptive in what you need to get what you want out of it. But yeah,
Yeah, there's 2 main elements I think that have a potential for our world. One is the content creation that you just described, Melissa. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm talking to organizations that are using it to create job descriptions. There's the opportunity to use it for employee verification letters, for employee communication. There's really no shortage of things you can do with it. So content creation is one thing. Another interesting one that I think eventually, again, to be clear, like we can't do this today, but think about a time when, like if in the future, Melissa, let's say you had to write Matt's performance evaluation, okay? And what if like our technology, first of all, kicked off a request for 360 feedback from everybody that Matt identified as, hey, talk to this mm-hmm. person. Then the system read all of that feedback that was provided. And then it went out and grabbed Matt's performance data, his goal attainment, his attendance, any employee relations issues. And it literally drafted a review and wrote it for you, Melissa. And then you look at it and you go, this is pretty good. I would tweak 2 things here and boom, you're done. So like that is like one example. And then the other big beyond content is responding to questions and requests from the field. So I'm a former HR guy and I was constantly getting questions and requests like, hey, can you tell me what my medical plan deductible is? And hey, do we actually get the day after Thanksgiving off? I'm trying to remember, like all these little things that if you train generative AI, then we don't ever have to field one of those questions or requests again. And you add that on top of robotic process automation, where people are requesting time off or a schedule change or a training class. All of those approvals can be automated. All of a sudden, we literally have so much more time to spend on important things that matter. So those are just like two little examples.
But I think that's really interesting, though, because a lot of times when we have the AI discussion, it's always that very transactional, what's my PTO balance kind of thing. But that first concept, that's, I've never even thought of that. That's brilliant.
Right.
Yeah.
The ones I was always thinking of were around the approvals, right? Policy.
Yeah.
Yet we leave it up to subjectivity. We're like, this manager needs to approve it, and this second level manager needs to approve if over this amount or if then. But they really approve, they're interpreting your policy from your organization. So that machine learning should be able to determine why you say no. Oh, are they not putting a correct effective date? Or learn and gets you out of the approval process and gets these transactions quicker. But as you said, that the approval saves a little time, but boy, performance reviews, I don't know who has the time to sit down at the end of the year, and it's traditional. And everybody complains about it, and everybody does it late, but yet we still do it. Organizations out there haven't changed the way they've thought about it. I mean, we've talked about this continuous performance, and we've heard from a lot of clients that they're interested in it, they're looking at it, but it's like that barrier to entry, and how do they cross it, right? But even if it is still a focal or an annual, something like this would be able to take the burden off.
Yeah, and we're already, heading in that direction with things like continuous performance engagement at Infor, things like raves. The point is baby steps, right? Like, how do you just do small things a little bit differently? So pull out your device and say, Matt, wonderful job in today's webinar. You did great. And it goes to Matt, and it goes to his manager, and it goes into his digital file for later on when we're going to give Matt a huge comp increase and a huge promotion, right? So you have a lot to look forward to.
Things are never happening.
But again, and then with the continuous performance engagement piece too, is saying, look, it's not an annual thing. It's not even, quarterly thing. It's a weekly thing where, hey, I just want to check in with you, see how you're doing. I know that you're at this event this week, Melissa, and you're in Vegas next week, and you're here the week after that. And I want to be able to quickly check in, see how you're doing, and utilize that information to maintain engagement. That's the hardest thing when we talk about engagement. It's one thing to boost it by doing something quick and easy, but to sustain it over time, man, that's hard.
It's just it's the understanding of your team, of the people that are around you, understanding who they are and what they want. Maybe they're fine doing the same thing every day for the next 10 years, but if they're not, how do you ensure that you're feeling those touch points? You know when they're frustrated, or you know when they have personal things that might impact their work, and how can you support them? But also with this, all the AI thing, there's a whole new generation alpha coming into a workforce that doesn't want to type, doesn't know how to handwrite. They don't want to deal with paper, and it'd be cool. I would choose a company who used AI tech over one that used paper for sure. And I'm not Generation Alpha or Z, so yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. The funny thing is, it's almost counterintuitive, but the reality is that the more we use technology, the more human our workplace can actually become. Because we don't have to do this other stuff, we can focus more on, the meaningful things. But it is funny that you bring up the next generation, Melissa, because you're right. I mean, like, us old folks, I actually like to call people and talk to them, and they're like, why are you calling me? Whereas the next generation is like, no, I just want to be able to pull out my mobile device and get the information I want. So some of the folks that have been around for a while, and I hear from right. I hear frequently from CHROs, man, it feels like we're removing the human element out of HR. And the reality is it's quite the opposite. By freeing our time up, we have more opportunities for those meaningful interactions. And the next generation doesn't care if they can't call you because they probably don't want to.
Right, and it's getting out of our own way, like getting out of those transactions that are kind of bogging us down and being able to have that valuable interaction. Yeah.
That's right.
So what are some other trends? We were talking in our first series about the workplace, flexibility, being more productive if you have that hybrid work environment. What other kinds of trends have you been seeing that that employees are asking for? Employees are actually demanding now post-COVID.
Well, you hit on a couple really important ones. I think, again, it's kind of a generational thing and it's kind of not. Every human being wants choice and some control over our lives. And so this idea of flexibility and autonomy, where we work, when we work, how we work, who we work with, I think that's becoming a lot more prominent. And the pandemic kind of fast forwarded some of those capabilities that we didn't expect would be there. And today we have a lot more flexibility because we've got tools and resources, and those social norms have changed a little bit. But the other piece of that I think you were alluding to, that I'll put a name to, is personalization, because I'm different than Matt, Matt's different than you. And so, understanding that creating one size fits all strategies for your workforce, it's not going to work anymore, because again, that next generation experiences personalization in every other facet of their lives, their consumer lives and whatnot. And they kind of expect that at work now. So I think that's really important to understand. This person wants to work 3 days a week from home. This person over here is like, no, I love coming to the office, or I love traveling. I want to go see clients. Don't take that away from me. So understanding those nuances and dynamics. And of course, Infor uses a talent science behavioral assessment to better understand somebody's characteristics. That's really important now.
Nice.
I definitely agree, because I've seen that just even within our team, people who are ready to get back out on client sites, people who are ready to be, even we have an office in Baltimore that we just expanded because people just want to walk up to somebody's desk and ask questions, not have to schedule a meeting when they see an opening on a calendar 2 weeks from now. So you get both sides of it. I think, Matt, I don't know if you've got some questions for Marcus that, as we've been talking here.
Well, I mean, we know that, like, we see some of these, the stats on the screen and everything, and just wondering, have we seen things that are kind of being developed out to kind of address those or find leading indicators on those? Have you seen anything like that so far? Or
in terms of like what's causing it, or how
a little bit of both?
It, or
both.
both?
We're talking about the overall engagement piece, and so it's, I'm just, and this is, it's not a specific question. It's just, we're seeing this and we're thinking of the tool. I think maybe getting those kind of metrics, or seeing that kind of information up front could be a next step as well. Maybe that's where AI can help us too.
Yeah, you know what? I think there's an opportunity, Matt, to address what I heard somebody say recently is we need to incorporate the timely and the timeless. Timely being new technologies, generative AI. Let's let some of the technology do things for us. But there's some timeless things too that are really important to all of us. I mentioned a couple of them earlier. I want some control over my life. I want to have choices. I recently studied at the University of Sussex on the psychology of kindness and well-being at work. And we talked about, what do people want from work? They want meaning. They want to be able to be competent at something. They want relationships at work. And so if we can incorporate both of those, I think we'll start to see those engagement scores change. But again, you also have to have that personalization at the individual level, or I don't think you'll see them come back up. But I do think that next generation has a different set of expectations.
And that leads really nicely into the how can I start? Because it is having those conversations. So understanding you have a very different team and what is meaningful to them and how can you support them. So all the things that we've talked about over the last 2 weeks, you might not be able to do at your organization. But here's some takeaways. If you're a manager, you're able to kind of start doing that on paper. Guess what? All of HR started on paper. So why not do your continuous performance on OneNote, and not literal paper, but maybe not an HR tech system, and talk to your team. How can you support them in staying within the organization and upskilling? And then directors, we need you to be sponsors for these initiatives.